that in all things God may be glorified, says the Apostle Peter, ut in omnibus glorificetur Deus, which one finds in many a Benedictine or Cistercian monastery, or St. Benedict picks it up, giving that virtue of, we call it religion. I want to dwell on that for a few moments this afternoon, for it concerns us all, especially in the context of the cosmic victory over which we think on this weekend. The Christ of glory, standing in the sun, gazing upon us and seeing the whole of this ball that we call the world. Remember that both St. Benedict and our own Julian of Norwich saw the whole of what was as small as a ball, round as a hazelnut, in the Father's hand. All things in one punctum. And this reminds us of what we are. It's the experience of all who travel this planet. We are here as ants crawling. We go without a name and without glory, although we might think the contrary. But as I was reminded in France, les cimetières sont pleins de gens qui se pensaient indispensables. The cemeteries are full of people who thought themselves indispensable. One modern poet sitting in a graveyard had this poem of 2 lines. Lonely, 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 lonely. A sentence with the middle only. James Joyce also was puzzled. I am astride at a time, a very short space of time, through very short times of space. On Friday, I had with me a dear priest friend who comes often, and he wanted me to see something which makes the mind boggle. It's a scientific simulation of what would happen if one sent out a rocket and then detached the top of the rocket from the launching vehicle and set it off on a course into infinity. It was very well put together, and it went on and on and on and on and on and on. And it got to the end of gravitational pull and carried on. Is there a lid? Is there a brink? What is infinity? Our mind cannot understand infinity, either in space or in time. When translating the Purgatory manuscript, this came out. The soul in Purgatory indicated that one cannot understand it until one has reached it. And that soul explained it's like another dimension. I want, for a second, to look at that dimension. The Lord, first of all, standing on Mount Tabor, as we have in the rendezvous given in the Gospel of Matthew, commissions them. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. And the departure takes place on Mount Olivet, where one can still see the footprint. At that point, in his humanity, he is now looking down, but in his divinity, he is omnipresent. He is always united to the other 2 members of the Trinity. And in the sacramental sphere, they all always work together. But in his humanity, he's been here, He knows it, he's walked it, and he understands. He's on side with us. Remember that no matter how far you've gone in falling. As long as you've got breath, you've got eternity on the safe side if you come back. It's one moment after that it's irreversible. But he sees also what threatens us. He sees all that's around us. He sees all that's around the planet. He sees the demons. He sees the angels, as does our Blessed Lady. Our Lady participates in the knowledge of her Son, and the proof is that when we see people in ecstasy together, we have simultaneous conversations going on with the same Lady. Now, if she is appearing in our time more than ever before in human history, we can be sure that there's a good reason for it. Before this month of May ends, I want to remind you of the time that we're in. The Marian age, the age when we have promises linked with her Immaculate Heart, linked with the Rosary. But also, given that we are in a battle that the earth has never seen before, the amount of invisible warfare going on around us is also correspondingly colossal. St. Michael is very much at work. Now, when translating this manuscript way back, it was going back into the time when something similar had happened before in Europe. The Masons, the Freemasons, had got to power. He was actually even appearing, it seems, in the Grand Orient in Paris, telling them what to do, disguised as a man. And it worked. All the religious had to be expelled, the government had to be completely Masonic, and the church had to be rendered ineffectual. Now, beyond, there is this invisible battle that the sister in question is warning about to the one that's alive. If it's true a century or more ago, it's doubly true now. Now is the hour of the Prince of Darkness. But let them all do their utmost, she says, from purgatory. As long as they last, God will show them that he is master, not they. But, she goes on, we're aware in purgatory, through God's permission, of what's going on at present on earth, so that we may pray for these great necessities. But our prayer alone is not enough. This Holy Mass, by the way, is being offered for the Holy Souls. St. Michael will intervene in the Church's personal battle. He is the leader of this Church, now so fiercely persecuted, though not so soon annihilated as these evildoers think. Curiously enough, she goes on to indicate, he too is France's special protector, and he will help her to take once more its position as elder daughter of the Church. Goes on to indicate the amount of goodwill still in France. It's probably true in this land. When is St. Michael to intervene? I have no idea. What we must do is pray hard for these intentions, invoke the Archangel, recalling his titles before him, and beg him to intercede with the one over whose heart he has so much influence. On it goes. I am picking up from things I hear that the awareness of the sacred, specifically in the house of God, specifically in the liturgical sphere, is becoming alarmingly diminished. I've heard more than one testimony of the kind of song that is being asked for at funerals. I've heard more than once of the song, highway to hell being asked for and used at the end. What is going on here? It means that there is a complete loss of awareness, either of the liturgy itself or of the soul itself. It's as though we can stand calmly before our God and not be in the slightest in a nervous state. So confident that we're all safe, that God is completely innocuous, unable to do anything at all, that we have completely lost the plot when it comes to our own safety. It's rather like what happened some years ago in America. It was, unfortunately, a group of Catholic young men who wanted a joyride. They stole a vehicle and drove it as fast as they could on a very, very fast highway, newly built. But a person was waving frantically as they got to a certain point to warn them not to go to that part of it because it wasn't yet properly finished and it was dangerous. And they poked fun at him and they went to the maximum. And a few seconds later, all 4 or 5 of them were in the beyond. And the Catholic priest had to handle their funeral. Now, life is a bit like that. When we press the accelerator as fast as we can, excluding any thought of danger, one day we will propel ourselves into that eternity, in the state that we're in 1 second before. The liturgy is an ambit which doesn't belong to this earth. We are doing on earth what the angels are doing in heaven, and with the angels who are all around us. But there is continuity. And with this, I want to finish. When we are in the house of God, handling our God, as it were hand to hand, eye to eye, that must not in any way remain in the house of God and be parked. All our moments are stamped. All our moments are on our copybook. All our moments are called to be graced, to be in intimacy with the one that we're meeting. And this is the test. Is there any part of my day that I wouldn't be proud of before my King in the house of God? Is there any word on my tongue that I wouldn't claim and own? It matters. Because if, for instance, either a lay person or even more so a consecrated person, and to the maximum a priest, dares to use one part of his body, any part, from top to bottom, out of the will of God, freely and willingly, then that person is not in the will of God. That person is not under the sway of God. That person is doing his own thing. And there is no need for certain things ever to happen. There are faults that happen through instinct against our will, but there are others that happen through our will, easily controllable. The tongue, swearing, blasphemy, temper, taking people's name, being uncharitable. These are not excusable, as might be some on the level of the passions, which happen by instinct and against our will, for which we need to ask victory and be patient with ourselves. Do you see the difference? One, we can easily handle if we want to, but we don't want to. That means the will is not handed over. And all this, my friends, as I've seen in the manuscript of Purgatory, is stuff that will come back later and will mean perhaps years and years of slow and non-meritorious purification. Why make a detour when we can go quickly there? I finish with another quote that we had in the first reading. And it was actually what was told me in my very first confession by a good Benedictine. Charity or love hides a multitude of sins. I've told you before, but I'll tell you again about that wonderful mystic who was responsible for the building of the present Bethlehem Carmel, which our Lord himself was the architect of, using her. And he wanted it built in a circular form to honour the Tower of David. Carmel is all Mary's. Lots of things happened in that foundation. All the windows look up to heaven. The Lord did not want talking the human voice in the corridors, but he also wanted warmth. And I finish with this. Miriam, now Saint Miriam of Jesus crucified, stigmatized, died at 32. She knew where souls went. There was a prioress that they thought was in heaven. She was roasting nicely, and there was a reason for it. But there was a big surprise when it came to one hidden nun who was, as we would say, no great shakes. She went like a rocket. Do you know why? Not once in the whole of her long religious life had she lacked in